many BC condo owners are getting hit with special assessments for big repairs like roofs and building envelopes. And in some cases, they can cost tens of thousands of dollars. So why is this happening? And what can people do if they don't have the money to pay? Well, joining us here in studio right now is Mark Ting. Mark, of course, is our guide to personal finance and a partner with Foundation Wealth. Mark, hello there.
Hi.
Well, take us through. What is a special assessment?
So strata owners, usually condo owners or people who live in townhouses, they pay a fee, a strata fee every month. That fee is divided into two parts. The first part, which is the majority of it, just pays for day-to-day costs. If you have a doorman or utilities, anything that where the residents can use a common area, that's covered by that part of the strata fee. There's another part called a contingency fund. The contingency fund is about 10% of the strata's overall annual operating costs. And that's your emergency fund. That's for things that you have to worry about down the road, maybe a potential roof, envelope, like you mentioned, that sort of a thing. So you could be very diligent in paying your strata fees every month, and do it on time. But still, with the cost of things happening today, if there is a major expense, then often it's not enough. You always have to keep a certain amount in a contingency fund. And if there's not enough, then there's going to be a special assessment, which can be hopefully a one-off. It could be tens of thousands of dollars, or sometimes people get it almost every year.
Right. Okay. Any more examples of, a special assessment, some of the options that we have to address it?
Right. So someone called in about this because her situation was she has a special assessment for about $20,000. So that's a big one. And the situation is she lives in townhouses. They need new roofs. And her portion of that is $20,000. So she was wondering what could be done about that. Now, her strata, they kicked around a couple options. In their case, they did have a couple units which were actually owned by the strata. So they said, okay, we could sell a unit or two. Another option was they could borrow against those two units. But after all the discussions, it didn't really seem tenable, because if you borrowed against them, then every single strata unit would have a charge on their actual unit, because as a collective, they're borrowing. So that causes problem if anybody needs a mortgage or refinances. So that was basically cut out. And then the other side is they couldn't sell them because they actually relied on the revenue for those. So what was the option? Suck it up. You're going to have to pay. You're going to have to find that $20,000 somehow. You're either going to borrow on your own terms. You have to borrow from somebody else, or you're going to have to start saving.
Well, let's talk about those options. What happens if the condo owner just can't afford it?
If the condo owner can't afford it, then it's going to go through anyways. One person cannot hold up a whole project. They vote on it, it passes, it's going to happen. And if someone really just doesn't have the money, the strata will pay for it, but they're going to charge that condo owner interest rate of about 10%. It'll be compound annually. So eventually, at the end of the day, most people will end up selling their units if they can't afford it, which is unfortunate. Now, the one thing about this is not like it happens overnight. Usually, like in this case, they had to get a new roof. They tried many things. They tried to Band-Aid it. They tried to push that ball down the road a bit. So generally, people have a little bit of runway, noticed that they can start saving on their own, or they can put up credit facilities. So by the time the bill actually comes, they have some kind of means to do it. So if that's the case, if anyone's listening and there's rumblings that there's going to be a big special assessment, like the best thing you can do is start saving now.
I see. Well, is this a BC problem, Mark? Are people having similar issues across the country?
People are having similar problems across the country. I read a report that BC residents, strata owners, were paying about $1 billion last year in these special assessments. And part of it is because of our rules. So if I compared it to Ontario, for example, I think I mentioned that the contingency fund aspect of it is 10% of the overall operating cost of the strata. That's usually not enough. And in Ontario, they don't really do it based on the operating cost. They actually model out what's going to be needing replaced, because it's easy to figure out. Like if you have a brand new roof, then you don't have to pay for another one for another 25 years, et cetera. So they'll actually sort of reverse engineer it and say, okay, we're going to have all these costs in the future. Let's start saving for it now. So on one hand, if you're in a BC strata, yeah, your strata fees are quite a bit lower than someone in Ontario. But on the other hand, the Ontario group, they have a much larger contingency fund, so the likelihood of them getting a special assessment is a lot lower. So you're not going to avoid it. Like, maintenance has to be done. So you're either paying less every month and you're going to get hit with the odd big bump up, or you're paying more every month.
Well, sure. And as people are shopping around, maybe considering buying a strata unit, what would your recommendation be then? Do you buy new when the strata fees are generally lower, or used?
I remember talking to you about this a couple of years ago, and I said that having a low strata fee compared to your peers, most people look for that because it kind of gives a sense that this is a well-run building, that they're really getting good value for their money. But for me, it was a red flag. And if I saw that their strata fees were considerably lower than sort of their peer groups, I would want to know way more about how that money is being spent, what the contingency plan was. So having just a low strata fee is often not a good thing because you're going to end up with more special assessments. In terms of buying right now, strata fees is one part of it. Like the price is one part, location's one part. I would say the overall deal is what I'd be looking for. There is a lot of deals right now. There's a lot of people that have to sell. There's a lot of forced selling in the used market, the new market, the pre-sale market, almost across the board. So right now, like strata is just one variable of many. I would be looking at the overall deal at this stage. It is such a strong buyer's market.
Wow. Okay. So you started off talking about, this was a question from a listener who reached out about his $25,000 repair bill. What did he end up doing?
He's going to keep his place. He really, really wanted the strata to sell a unit or borrow against it because he has money, but he just didn't want to spend it. So my job is to give answers, and sometimes they're not really always well received. But I told him, I was like, look, you really don't have a choice here. You can either sell your place or you're going to have to pay for it. So ultimately, he's going to end up finding the $25,000. He has it in savings. His other neighbors, he's telling me stories. Most of them are having to take out loans against their property. Luckily, this is a fairly old unit, like building. So it's had some capital appreciation. So people do have some equity in there. But anybody who's bought in the last 5 years, like hopefully they don't have a special assessment because usually there's warranties, but some of them do. There's no equity in those. And then they have to find the money elsewhere.
Check the fine print. Check the fine print.
Every strata has these bylaws. Yeah, you do have to check those.
Okay, well, we've got another minute or so here, and I just want to hear a little bit more what you were saying about the market right now, the housing market, and so many options out there. What should people be keeping in mind? I mean, it's not necessarily a time to be buying for investment purposes because you're going to be hit at the end if you're going to. What would be your recommendation for your approach?
You're finding landlords, like past landlords, who having to renew their mortgages and their mortgage payments are going up and the rents are going down. That's a group that's selling right now. You have people with special assessments that can't afford the special assessments. That's a group that's selling for right now. There's always those people that have to sell because of divorce, moving jobs. There's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of transition going on. So those people are selling. And the buyers, they're worried. They're not really worried, but they're biding their time like they should because they got all these sellers, so many selling pressures, and they can take their time and pick it. Now, what a lot of the buyers do is they try to pick the bottom. That's extremely hard to do. That's why I always say, look at where there is crisis. And there's a lot of crisis, which is unfortunate, but that's the name of investing. That's the name of buying a place. And anybody who's bought in 2020, 2021, even before that, they're probably underwater in a lot of these places. And if they bought multitude, they're having to sell, and they're selling at these big discounts.
How times have changed, huh?
It's completely different than a while ago.
So nobody's lining up for the pre-sales. Remember those stories?
Not unless they're discounting it like 50% or something like that. And even then, I'm wondering if that's the best deal. If that's something I would do, I'd probably buy something else, to be honest.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you're watching the trends for us, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's Mark Ting. He is our guide to personal finance. He's a partner at Foundation Wealth.